Hello, my wonderful Kickstarter backers. This is the much anticipated playthrough video for Tipping Point, the climate change card game. So many of you have been asking for this video, and here it is. So I've got the game all set up here on the table, ready to go. So in the center is kind of like Machi Koro style, are all of the development cards available to purchase. And these are randomized at the beginning of the game. And whenever one is purchased, it's immediately replenished from the stack over there. Next, we've got the timeline track. And this basically puts a strict time on how long the game can go. Every round, this advances, and you basically are game over once you reach the year 2100 if you can't reach the population and stabilize the climate by then. Over here is a bunch of cubes and the dice, and these are used for electricity and weather. Got the rules booklet over here. The weather cards are here, and the weather almanac, which helps decode the weather cards, is beside it. And then each player begins the game, and I've set this up with 4 players here, with a forest, a farm, and one randomly pulled citizen. So here's another starting player. This one's easier to look at. So the forest is the carbon sink, right? So it's -1 CO2, but the forest is also a resource, and it can generate $1 of income. But if the player chooses, they can do a sort of a one-time chop down all of their forests, and they can make $3 just for that one turn. So that's kind of the special ability of the forest. And then the farm is super critical. The farm produces food, and of course food can also generate some income as well. But large farms, because of fertilizer usage, tractors, and all those other sort of inputs, also produces CO2. So you can see at the beginning of the game, our little settlement here is kind of carbon neutral, -1 CO2, +1 CO2. And enough food to feed 3 people. And so I have one person to begin with, and here I've pulled the engineer. And the engineer has a special ability here. It says I can look through the development card deck and purchase any card I want. And once I've done that, I have to flip this card over. When I flip the any citizen card over, it's still a person, right? It still requires food, but citizen cards that are flipped over also generate income. And we call that sort of tax income. So you can think of this like when the citizen card is being used properly, that means they're happy, they're employed, and they're paying tax, which is coming back to the state here as income. So we want to try to appease our citizens and grow our population, and that's the goal for everyone. If everyone can do that by the end of the game, everyone can win, okay? So it's a race in a way to the first person to get to 9 citizens wins. Okay, so let's begin the game. We'll start here with the first player. So the first player has a forest and a farm. Okay, those each generate $1 each, so they have $2. But they have the farmer. And the farmer can generate extra food, so that's pretty cool, but the farmer also costs $2. So in terms of our net dollars available to make a purchase, we have 0. So that's not gonna do. So this player is gonna have to do something different. So it says at the bottom of this citizen card, they can flip this card at any time. So they're just gonna do that. They don't need this ability anyways. So now we have +1 instead of -2. So that gives us 1, 2, $3 to work with. And the way Tipping Point works is that you don't have little money tokens. You got to sort of think of this as like cash flow. So we have +$3 to sort of work with. With that, we can make one purchase here from the selection of development cards. Just one. That's in the rules. And it can be $3 or less. So let's see what we have available. Sandbags. Those cost $2. They protect the city against floods. Okay, interesting. So we could buy that. We can buy a refinery if we wanted to. So refinery sort of combo with mines and oil derricks to make extra money. But a refinery requires electricity. And so we don't have any electricity at the moment. So this card would be rather useless to us. Okay, we could still purchase it, but we'd have to keep it flipped over because it's just, it wouldn't be turned on. We've got a small organic farm, can make some extra food. A park can decrease our CO2. We've got the university that can allow us to use the advanced research cards. Okay, I don't think there's actually any of those available right now, so no point buying the university, and also it's too expensive, $5. We've got a mine to generate extra dollars. Oh, here we go, some electricity. So we've got the coal-fired power plant, which makes quite a bit of electricity, 8 electricity. That would basically power 8 kind of normal buildings. That's a lot. That would be a great thing to have, but there's a trade-off. It produces quite a bit of CO2. Okay, alternatively, we could buy a wind power plant that would make far less electricity, but at least it's carbon neutral. So I think I'm gonna make a purchase here, but let me just show you the rest of the cards. Got wetlands, which don't do much of anything except, of course, they can suck CO2 from the air, so that's pretty valuable. Another mine. A trade depot is important. Trade depots allow players to ship food between each other. Otherwise, you can't share food. And later on in the game, when food becomes scarce, this will be super important. And a fire station is, of course, important because it's going to help us put out fires when they occur. Without fire stations, our city is likely to get lost to weather disasters. So we want one of these eventually too, but we can't afford it, and we need electricity as well. So I think step 1 is going to be pretty obvious here. One of these, I'm going to choose the coal-fired power plant. More bang for the buck, and I think right now CO2 isn't a big problem, so I'll add this to my settlement, and that would conclude this turn. Well, actually, first I should say to mark out the electricity, what you use are these little cubes here. So you take 8 of the same color. Doesn't really matter which color you choose at the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you put those on or beside the power plant card. And every time you need an electricity, you can take it from this supply. And that just sort of makes it easier to keep track of how much electricity there is left to share. So you can use electricity yourself, or you can share it with other players. Up to you. So player 2's turn here, and you'll see this sort of will get a lot faster here once you sort of get the hang of the game. So player 2 has a very similar start. The large farm, the forest, makes $2. The construction worker, what do? Oh, they can tear down a building if they want. Okay, well, they generate CO2 while they're just sitting there, I guess, idling their bulldozer. But at least they're not costing us any dollars, so we don't have to worry about flipping him over. So we've got $2 to work with. We can make a purchase. And oh, I should have done this. I should have replenished. Oh, hey, it's another wind power plant. Well, to be honest, we don't really need wind power at the moment. We've got the coal power, so I'm going to make a different sort of purchase here. And, you know, to be honest, I'm kind of thinking this mine. You know, it makes an extra $1, which is what you need. You need money. So let's do it. Let's mine the earth here for some resources. And that would conclude this player's turn. Player 3, same thing. They've got $2 here for their forest and farm. Their engineer doesn't cost them anything, but it allows them to look through the deck to make a purchase if they want. So we could do that. Let's see what we got here, though. Oh, a forest came up, by the way. That was the new one. You know what? I think, honestly, wind power is what I'm going to purchase as well. You know, energy independence is kind of nice in the game, and I'm going to grab a couple different color cubes, 2 of them for the wind power plant, put them there. Energy independence is nice because sometimes, you know, if you're counting on your neighbor to give you electricity for your buildings, it can kind of backfire. If they say no, you're going to be left out in the cold. So same thing if there's a power outage, kind of nice to have your own electricity. And we got a new card there, the market, which allows someone to buy food, so you don't necessarily have to grow it. Okay, cool. And finally, we've got our player 4 here. They got a very similar startup, and of course their student card here. The student is unfortunately kind of the worst card. The student doesn't do anything. They're in school, they're learning, right? So you can't really expect them to get a job, and they're learning for a higher education. So for now, at least, this student does nothing. And I kind of imagine an expansion to the game where the students become more useful as time goes on. But for now, we'll say the students are just doing nothing. We've got a forest and a farm, $2. Make another purchase. And you know what? This player is feeling like reducing the CO2 count is going to be rather useful. So I'm looking at this forest. It makes $1 and reduces CO2. That's going to help offset the mine that the other player just purchased, and that big coal-fired power plant. It's going to sort of offset that a little bit. So, okay, got that there. Okay, so now that all 4 players have gone, it's time for the between round phase. So step 1, you need to make sure you can feed all of your people. So every player looks at their cards and they see, how much food do I have? Well, I have 3 from this farm, and that's all I have. And then you deduct how many negative foods you need here to feed all your people. And of course, -1, everyone starts out the same. So I still have 2 food left. I don't get to store it. There is a card that actually allows you to store food for future rounds, but right now it just goes and spoils, I guess. And so everyone can do the same, right? They all just have 1 person. So this part of the game goes pretty fast. Don't have to worry about feeding our people. If I didn't have enough food to feed my person, then this person would starve. Okay, there's really nothing I can do about it. So you really do need to have food. Otherwise things go bad pretty quickly. And I think that's probably pretty realistic too. Okay, next step, you count your total CO2, and that's for everyone. That's for all the players. Total CO2. So here, let's do this, starting with this player here. So they've got a -1, +1, -1. So that's a -1 for that player. Here we're back to a carbon neutral here. Oh, back to -1. Okay. That's pretty good start, -1. The mine produces 2, so we're actually at +1 now. +2. Back to just +1. Oh, the construction worker, +2. 3 here, so that's 5. Down 4. And back up to 5, and this flipped over citizen doesn't produce any CO2. So that's a total of 5 for the whole table. And so what you do is, in the rule booklet, there's a little reminder, but there's a little sort of bit of math here you can do to figure out, okay, if I have 5 or less total CO2, then I reveal 1 weather card. Okay, if I had just 1 more, 6, I'd have to do 2. So actually 1 is pretty awesome because with 1 weather card, I can pretty much guarantee nothing is going to happen this round. So here's the weather cards. All I do is I flip it and I put it right here. Now, the next time I reveal a weather card, I'm going to flip it and put it here beside this one. So I'd have rain and then, you know, something else. And I would look here at the weather almanac, and if there's a match, like rain followed by more rain, that would be a flood. Or, oh, that would be about it. That's the only one I really need to worry about. If it was snow followed by rain, that would be freezing rain. All I really need to worry about is if it's another rain card. Now, that would be a flood. Now, you might recall there's actually a card available to purchase, sandbags here, to protect my city in case of flood. So, you know, the players might be looking at that thinking, well, that actually looks a little bit more appealing right now. Okay, and the last thing I do before starting a new round is I move the counter up a decade, okay? And you'll see here, once I get into the black zone, so that would be starting on the fifth turn, population grows at double the normal rate, okay? And you're gonna see why that's important in a second. So back to the game. And now I can do this pretty quick, right? Player one. The first thing you do on your turn, and now this is sort of our first regular turn, is you flip a new citizen card. We've got an engineer. Okay, pretty cool. Then you count your dollars. I've got $1, $2, $3. Then I look at what it's available for purchase for $3. And you know what, this player's thinking that sandbag's going to be pretty useful to protect my my new power plant here from getting flooded potentially in the future. So that gets replenished. Player two goes. They count their money. They have 1, 2, 3, and just 3 as well. Okay. They look at the deck here. What do they want to purchase? Well, you know what? They're kind of realizing that all of this CO2 buildup might be kind of a bad thing. Here, if they at least get this wetland, it doesn't really do much for them, but at least it helps the CO2 count. So, you know, looks like the way I'm playing is a little bit more cooperatively than maybe some people would. Some people might say, well, you know what? I want the fire station. Why would I buy sandbags, or why would I buy wetlands? That's going to just sort of protect other people or protect me. I want I want something a little like maybe I want the oil well, just make a lot of money. That's going to be good for me in the long run. And actually, I think that's what this third player is going to do. They've got $1, $2. $2 is not a lot of money, so they're thinking, you know, if I get this oil, I'm going to be stinking rich next time. Because look, $3 for an oil well. So that's pretty cool. So remember, maybe it's kind of strange, but you don't actually save unused money, right? So that I had $2, but that only cost me $1. But you don't get to save extra money because it's like cash flow. It's not like you actually have little money tokens to keep track of. And to be honest, like, you know, once you play one round of this game, it becomes super easy. But I think for some people, it's a little maybe confusing at first. Oh, here we go, City Hall. That's kind of a cool card. So City Hall, if you have this, if you want on your turn, as a bit of a bonus action, you can wipe all 12 of these cards and pick 12 new ones from the deck. So if there's kind of nothing you want for sale, you can just find something new. Okay, last but not least, we've got this player, their student. You know, I realize I've forgotten. I needed to flip a citizen card from my last person. Totally forgot about that. The environmentalist. Oh, okay, cool. If you purchase a forest, park, or wetland, then flip this card. And remember, flipping citizen cards is useful because you get more tax dollars, right? So the environmentalist would be happier and therefore pay more taxes, I guess, if you purchase something they like. So that's kind of cool. And of course, I still have my engineer over here. If I want, I can use that ability at any point. Okay, so sorry, I forgot about that. This player is going to flip a citizen. You always do that first. Oh, a farmer. Okay, cool. Now the farmer is expensive, but they make food. Food's pretty valuable. So we've got $1, $2, $3 there, and -2 for the farmer. So I only have $1. Is there going to be something I want to purchase for $1? Well, actually, this mine. This mine is $1 in it. Would make me $1 every turn. So, you know, I think I'm just going to do that instead of flipping my farmer over like before, because I think that farmer is going to be really useful in the future. Okay, so here we are in the between round phase for the second time. So everyone counted their food already, and everyone's still good, right? Everyone still has that farm making 3 food, so everyone's fed. Next we did CO2. Now the total CO2, I counted it already, is +9. So quite a bit higher than last time. You know, there's some more mines and oil wells purchased this turn. So going to the rules booklet, 9 gives us 2 weather cards. Okay, so we got to flip 2 of these over. Here's how that's going to work. So the first card's flipped and it goes to the right. of the weather stack. So we've got rain followed by snow. We look at this, rain followed by snow. No, nothing. If it had been snow followed by rain, it would have been freezing rain. But the order is really important. And in this case, and that just sort of prevents it from being like, you know, a disaster every single time, right? So actually we get a little bit of a reprieve. We got kind of lucky. Next thing you do is you stack that on top of the old one and flip another card, right? We have to flip 2 of these. Aha, snow followed by snow. And I think that's actually going to be a disaster. Let's look at the weather cards here. Yeah, snow and snow is a snowstorm. 1 player loses 1 citizen, and 1 player's farm produces -1 food this round. That's pretty severe. So had someone purchased the hospital, then they would have been safe, right? They don't have to worry about losing a citizen. But at this point in the game, no one has a hospital. So a bit of poor luck, but that's okay. It's early on in the game. So every player would roll the die to, oh, another 2. Oh, 1. All right, good luck. Oops, 5. Oh, and I knocked these all over the place. This is a very professional playthrough video here. So this player, you know, you can decide as a group if you're doing highs or lows, but in this case, whoever rolled highest is going to suffer the consequence of losing a citizen. They get to choose which citizen goes. And I guess I'm going to choose this. Kind of the engineer is pretty valuable. So this citizen is now lost from the game forever. Okay. Remember, the whole goal is to get, you know, it's kind of a race to 9 citizens. So, you know, in this case, this sort of puts this player temporarily back. But you'll see, they can catch up. It's not the end of the world. Okay, and then the second part of the disaster was still yet to be resolved. 1 farm is going to lose 1 food this round. So same thing, you know, you would roll the die. Let's say it's a highs again. So 4, another 4, another 4, a 6. Okay, it wasn't a 4-way tie, which would have been brutal. So a 6. So this player loses a food. I'm just going to take one of these white cubes here, and I'm going to put it on the farm, and that's going to help me remember that this farm, instead of making 3 food this round, is only making 2 food as a result of that snowstorm. So let's keep going. Let's do one more round together, and I think you're probably going to get the hint of the game after that. So one more round. So player 1 pulls a new card. Oh, the Business Mogul, that's a new one. So if face up, you collect $0 in tax revenue, but you may purchase 1 extra development card. Oh, interesting. Okay, so remember tax, we call the tax revenue this dollar on the back of the citizen card. So right now I'm actually not making any tax dollars anyways. So this is not really a hindrance. And the Business Mogul allows me to make 2 purchases if I want on my turn. So let's see, let's count the dollars quickly. 1, 2, $2. Okay, for $2. Well, actually, here's a good one. I'm gonna make them purchase the market. Okay, the market's $2. The market generates 2 more food, and as you can sort of see from this snowstorm round, food's super important. So okay, I'm going to add that to my settlement, and it needs electricity. For the first time, we need some electricity. I'm going to take one from the coal power plant, put it over here, just to keep track of electricity usage. So that's that player's turn. Next player, pull a citizen. Oh, okay, another new one, the first responder. So I can flip this card at any point, okay, but if face up, my city is immune to weather-related deaths. Again, super important. It's kind of like having a little hospital here. So a special note, this card does not protect against starvation. Okay, so you still need food regardless of if it's protecting you from a snowstorm or a heat wave or a tornado. You still need food. It doesn't protect against that. Okay, of course, there is a cost to this. It cost me $1 on my turn. So what's my total dollars? I got a forest, 1, farm, 2, mine, 3. Wetlands, don't make any money. -1 for that. So I also have $2 to spend. Let's see. want to look at my options here. I got a pulp and paper mill. You know, oh, here's a new one, the heat tolerant crops. And actually, this is an example of a card that needs the university to play. It's a research card. So I would need to have this card in play, powered on, before I could purchase and use these research cards. And there's a bunch more of them in the deck. Well, you know what? Let's just say that this player was kind of unhappy with all of their choices, right? And they thought, well, I don't really have enough money. They could just do this, right? Anytime, it says here, flip at any time. I can flip this over. That makes a positive $1. So that would be 1, 2, 3, $4 in total. Yeah, sure, I'm a little more vulnerable than I was before, but you know, maybe to make up for it, I'm gonna purchase this fire station. So the fire station says there, forests and buildings are immune to fire damage. Perfect. I'll add this to my settlement. Now, I need electricity to make this run. This player doesn't have power. So they need to ask for help, okay? So they ask the coal friend here, hey, friend, would you give us some electricity? And maybe this player is like, yeah, you know, sure, no problem. We'll be friends. Or maybe they say, what's in it for me? You know, what kind of deal are you going to make me? Would you, you know, maybe give me an extra $1 every turn? Or would you give me some extra food if you got a trade depot in the future or something like that? So, you know, players can sort of wheel and deal, but I think in this case, this player's thinking, well, I got lots of electricity, no problem. Go ahead, friend, and you can power your fire station. Okay, awesome. Player 3's turn here. Player 3's got to pull a card. Fun one here, the soldier. So the soldier is kind of a cool mechanic. So you can do one of two things. A, you can go and capture something from another player. So you can take anything that's not a farm, basically, as long as they have fewer soldiers than you do. So if another player had 1 soldier, 1 and 1, no, it's not fewer. So you'd be out of luck. But right now, no one else has a soldier, actually. So I could go and steal anything from any player. That might make me kind of, you know, a bit of a threat in the game. People might not want to share electricity with me. So I'll have to think about that. Or I can leave this up and I can just basically defend my settlement. Okay? But I can't just like flip this over anytime I want. So this is costing me $1. If I wanted to flip it over, I'd have to use it, and that means doing option A. Okay, so the game kind of maybe sometimes forces players, hey, if they're low on cash and they have a bunch of soldiers, maybe they've got to be, you know, a little bit cutthroat about how they play. But we'll see. Let's count up our money here. We've got farm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And -1 for my soldiers, so that's down to 4. $4. I can make a purchase. Let me replenish this card here. Oh, fun! The nuclear power plant makes infinite electricity. Yes, I know, not really in real life, but in the game, infinite electricity, no CO2. What is the drawback, right? What could possibly go wrong? Well, if you read the fine print, well, first of all, this is a research card. Okay, so you need the university. It's also very expensive, so no one can really buy this right now. But look at that. If my city is hit by a tornado, I lose all of my citizens and buildings. So basically, you start over. So that's the risk you take. Okay, so I had fun with that card. That was a fun one to make. Okay, let's keep moving. Player 4 draws another citizen. Oh, poor luck. Another student. Right? Students don't do anything. They count their money. 1, 2, 3, 4. -2 for my farmer. So I just have 2. And I'm kind of in a pinch here because my farm is -1 food this round because of that snowstorm. So I actually don't have enough food necessarily to feed all my people. But I do have a farmer. They make extra food. So I'm actually okay. So I can't flip this farmer over to make that extra tax dollar. Even if I wanted to, because then I'd lose a person. So I have to keep that farmer flipped up. Can I make a purchase for just $2? well, you know what? Some electricity would be kind of nice. This, let's say this player's being kind of concerned about the total CO2 output, right? Maybe they're thinking that, you know, we better start reducing, otherwise we're going to be in some big trouble. So actually, if they bought the park, let's say they did that. The park has a little star there for CO2. It's -1 CO2 for every forest and wetland. So that can actually add up pretty quick, right? So if I put this here, that would mean actually I'm -2 additional CO2 because I have 2 forests. Okay, so we'll replenish that. Everyone's gone. Between round phase, everyone counts their food. This player has 1, 2, 3, 4. -1 is 3. So actually they have just enough food, 3. So they're good. This player, same thing. They've got a farm. They've got 3 people. They're good. But you can see next round, right? 1 more citizen, and some of these players are going to be in trouble because their farms only produce 3. So they're going to have to start buying new things like markets and more farms and that sort of thing. Okay, this player's good, and this player's good as well. Of course, they lost a citizen last time, so they have lots of food. So between round phase is complete. Let me count the CO2. I'll do that quickly here. Okay, so I counted them quick. There's 9 again. So actually, even though we grew, more cards were purchased, I think having like things like the park really made a difference and sort of kept our CO2 emissions in check. So again, with 9, we're going to be flipping 2 weather cards. So first thing we do is we sort of clear the old one. We put it on top like that. The snowstorm is over, so I can take this little -1 food away. Okay, and I'm going to flip 2 weather cards again. So snow and wind. Go to our almanac here, snow and wind. No, we're good actually, because if it had been wind followed by snow, that would have been a blizzard, but snow and wind, we're in the clear. Okay, so we'll put this up here, and 1 more weather card this round. Wind and sun. Let's see what that is here. So wind and sun, wind and sun, wind and sun. Well, that's sun and wind. Oh, again, I think we're actually in the clear again. So, you know, hey, this happens. Luck of the draw. Our current weather is not going to impede the next round. But you can see, I think, maybe we'll leave the game there for now, that things are going to get pretty dicey pretty quickly in the next round. This gets advanced 1, by the way. Pretty soon we're going to be growing at double the normal population rate. So that would mean every turn you draw 2 of these cards instead of just 1. So that means you need more food than ever. And food is going to be in pretty short supply. I mean, even if we look at the board here, we've got you know, just 1 food for this little farm, and that's the only food that you can purchase with these current development cards. So that's where, you know, maybe this engineer is super valuable. You can dig through the deck and find some more food. Or maybe if you didn't have that, the city hall, you'd want one of those, so you can wipe all the cards and try to get some more food onto the table. So you're gonna be looking for food. And as you're looking for food, you're going to stop thinking about things like CO2 and protecting your borders. And pretty soon, you know, maybe this player gets another soldier. They get kind of desperate for food. They're going to start coming for you, and they're going to steal your stuff. So that's the game of Tipping Point. It's, you know, to be honest, I hope this video has given you a sense of how the game goes. It's a lot of fun. There's tons of cards. By the end of the game, this table is full of cards as everyone has a really intricate little city. Some players, you know, like this player, they choose to go the low carbon route and you know, kind of almost self-sacrifice themselves by buying things like parks and forests. And as a result, they sort of rely on other players to help feed them. So, you know, someone better buy one of these trade depots pretty soon. If they have extra food, they can ship it off to another player. Yeah, you know. It's I hope this gives you a sense of how the game goes, and please you know, post any comments if you have some additional questions, or if you want to see another part of the game demoed. I'm happy to make another video. So until then, take care. We're into the last week of the campaign. It's going to be a tight one, so please like and share this video, like and share the campaign, And hopefully I'll see you at the finish line. Take care.